Yes.
Lijkt erop dat het werkt.
Okay, apparently we are live, so this means that we can start now. We are a bit late.
Als je heel eventjes wacht dat ik geluid hoor, dan...
I'm going to check it. Sound. Yeah.
Als je heel eventjes wacht dat ik geluid hoor, dan...
I hear it back there from the phone.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Welcome everyone. I think today we are with approximately 60 people around that number. So welcome all. Thank you for joining us. Again, we will do this in English. We are in Eindhoven. There are some English-speaking folks around who especially come for this meetup. The topic of today is going to be about how are we going to build Bitcoin parallel economy, or how are we going to be self-sustainable in a Bitcoin society. Someone was invited that many people know from mostly I think Twitter around 2021, around that year, 2021, and by that time he decided to build a family and ditch his phone. So he didn't actually have a phone from that time onwards, and if I ever wanted to connect with this Bitcoiner, I had to call his wife. So that was quite a special time, let's say, because he really went off grid. So Gurtis is here. He's a physical builder. He studied forestry, so he's great with the chainsaw. Looks a lot like Milai, but then in the physical reality. And I'm really looking forward to have a pleb discussion, a pleb talk about going back to the physical life of what Bitcoin means for a lot of people on the ground and how it will build a better society. And next to that, we are going to discuss things that we have discussed a lot over the past years with a lot of Bitcoiners, of how will we kick off this physical Bitcoin society that we actually need, and not just for us, but especially for our kids and the future.
For the kids.
Yes, exactly. So, Geert, welcome, and very happy that you shared a lot of thoughts. He has been writing quite a lot and shared a lot. And the top line in his writings is always, we have to do this for the kids.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about yourself and why this is such an important thing for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've got two small boys, and we have to, what we do for kids. We are building a new generation. We're helping those guys build a new generation, build a new world. So yeah, that's the main drive. So my story is I've always been a black sheep. Maybe I even was the black sheep amongst the black sheep, and I kind of enjoyed that role as well. It fits me pretty naturally, and so when I got introduced into Bitcoin, I was already very skeptical about the way the world works. I've been like that for decennia. But now I've found a way to put it into action and to short the system, to start the beast and to exit the rat race. And so I guess that's the focus of our talk will be how are we going to break out of this life and regain our sovereignty, autonomy, and our time, and the time of our kids.
mostly discussed over the past years was what would be the best starting point to build a parallel society. So if we look, we have Bitcoin City Arnhem, which is close by, approximately 70 shops over there accepting Bitcoin. You can basically live a Bitcoin life over there, but not many people do that at the moment. And what we are still missing is the ground up, and you have some ideas of, okay, what is the starting point where we really need to build a Bitcoin society. And if you look at the pyramid of Maslow, you see that the basics of humanity basically is shelter, food, and that's where you would like to focus on as the next chapter is, okay, how are we going to supply decent food amongst Bitcoiners, which is vertically integrated into the parallel society of, okay, I can pay with Bitcoin, but how would we start it? How are we going to build this up?
Yeah, so before we'll get there, I try to shop at local merchants or at farmers themselves, and I've successfully orange pilled a few of them by just encouraging them to accept my sets instead of fiat, and along the way they get enthusiastic about Bitcoin. In the bigger sense, I guess in the next decennia, it's up to us to secure our own future, including our own needs, which are food is an important one. And I've been for a long time in my life, I've been standing at the sideline yelling at the system, and it's up to us. We have a different vision. We have different built for our own consumption and our own needs. And we consume a lot of shit, right?
Yeah.
There's like 20 or 40 or 60 ingredients in everything you eat. And so we'll have to take matters into our own hands, and so we'll get into the producing our own food. We'll need land and animals and fruit and vegetables.
So how do you see this? Because in the Netherlands, land is scarce. Would you like to focus on the Netherlands, or do you look at this more broadly?
Yeah, I look at it broadly. I've learned through life to focus on what I want and to be open to what way it'll get to me. So whether it'll be whether we'll build these things over here or over there, it doesn't matter to me. So I'm open to buy land in El Salvador or in Africa and start building something like this over there. And but it'll need to be done in the Netherlands as well, even though land is scarce and expensive. The Dutch families need to be fed as well.
Yeah, so how do you see this? Because I know you're in the citadel group, so this is a group which discusses how can we decentralize, basically sourcing food, sourcing shelter, let's say, for people, and then on a Bitcoin economy. So how do you see this specifically for the Netherlands?
Yeah, there's two ways that come to mind. One is a group of Bitcoiners spend their sets to buy land and start building there. And another way is we keep our sets in our pockets. And somebody who has a lot of land and who likes our ideas says, come over here and do it here. Let's collaborate. And does it answer it?
Yeah, so what this is basically what the Bitcoiners is always the issue. We want to stack as much sets as possible because we want to save for the future. We know that the future value of Bitcoin is increasing, so therefore we save as much as we can. We work our ass off and we save in Bitcoin to accumulate more and more and more, but we don't spend. So
We do.
yeah, you do. So physically with the farmer, physically, but
Yeah.
not many people do at this moment. So at this moment, most people still see it as a store of value, not as much as a medium of exchange. And this is basically the two parts which are conflicting still. And when do you think the time would be to actually start using it more and more?
Yeah.
Because you do it, but many are not yet.
Yeah, it's up to each person, of course. I guess there's a difference between spending your sets weekly and then stacking some more. What did they say? Stack and refresh or refill or something
Yeah.
like that?
Spend and replace.
Yeah, spend and replace.
Spend and replace, yes.
That's really common sense to me. It doesn't really matter if you spend the euros or the Bitcoin as long as you're saving. But the other big question is, will you liquidate your stack to buy land? Eventually, we all will, right? If you start as a poor slave in the system with just a few hundred or thousand fiat on your account, and you start buying Bitcoin, one day it'll be $1 million or 2 or 3, and your quality of life can be influenced dramatically if you decide to spend some. So that's the question, right? When's that moment for you? And for me, it'll be pretty soon. I would gladly, laughingly spend 90% of my stack to get my family out of the rat race into freedom. Freedom to produce our own produce,
Yeah.
food, freedom to manage your own time. I'll laugh while I sell nearly all my sets to BlackRock. I would, yeah, of course. And if, let's say, you're a true hodler, in the 20 years that follow this moment, you take your family out of the rat race. In the 20 years after that moment, you're living a really happy life, and you're hodling again, even harder. And then your purchasing power will increase again, right? So to me, it's a non-discussion. Everyone will spend their sets eventually, and we should, right? Because we want to build something. We want create a different world. So
Yeah, but what are you going to produce then? Because you say, okay, I will buy a plot of land. I will become self-sufficient. Will this be sufficient just for your own family, or are you indeed going to specialize and overproduce something for society?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I guess Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You'll need energy and food. Those are the first basic important needs, and so I guess you need to create some energy that can be in wood or in solar or wind or all of them, and you'll need to produce food. So I told one of you guys just before, every citadel where Bitcoiners unite and try to build their own lifestyle needs one crazy idiot who likes to play with the animals and the chainsaw. And there's many who rather spend their time going motorbiking, or and it's all good. That can combine, right?
Yeah. So you physically would like to specialize in building basically an off-grid location in that sense, that is self-sufficient in energy, self-sufficient in food, but also overproduce, let's say, beef, or overproduce something physical which you would sell for Bitcoin again.
Sure.
So you can stack sets in that method.
Sell to another citadel if possible, right? To the mesh citadel. The idea of the mesh citadel is there's all kinds of these citadels decentralized in geographically, and they'll trade. They'll be friendly towards each other, and they'll trade. So if we produce a lot of timber, and those guys who produce the eggs, then we'll trade, right?
Yeah.
Maybe with Bitcoin as the unit as the medium of exchange, but we'll trade with each other. there still would need to be some income if you exit the rat race, if you remove yourself from the economy, you'll still need some parts when your car breaks down, right? Or you'll want a new phone, or most would want a new phone, right?
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
But what you see now is that in the US, there's quite some initiatives there for really a parallel economy. Yeah, so you see also that there's more space land-wise, so it's much easier to kick off these thoughts, and you've learned a lot of these thoughts yourself.
Yeah.
So can you guide a bit of where you see a chance to do that here in a more overpopulated area like the Netherlands or Europe in general?
Yeah, I see. I'm not sure if I'm getting the gist of your question right, but I see more opportunities in Southern Europe, Eastern Balkan. Not because of the land availability, but because of the freedom to act. We are so controlled by legislation, administrative tasks that follow those legislations. So I'd rather deal with a Hungarian governor who I just pay some cents, and then I'm allowed to do what I please. That would be pretty difficult in the Netherlands. If you have 10 cows, you'll need to do a whole day of administrative tasks every week, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, the way with a lot of resistance is doing it here. But if you look forward to tough times, difficult times, if those citadels, when they start forming, if they come under track, then you'll be very glad you're in the Netherlands, place where you speak the language, you have the network, opportunities to have some social capital which is working for you. So that's a big question still, where to do it. Eventually it'll be done everywhere, I suppose.
Yeah, so indeed, as you're saying, so in Eastern Europe, there's a lot more being built there already, but here in the Netherlands we don't see much food sourcing, which is Bitcoin based still. So we know quite some people that actually pay farmers or pay the butcher, or so there is a parallel economy, but it's still very small.
Yeah.
So there needs to be, in the end, again, some centralization.
Yeah.
So if this happens in the Netherlands, where should we focus on, or where would you bet on?
Yeah, I guess I would aim at beef as a produce, and I would try to sell it on the within the Bitcoin community. There's a lot of examples of guys doing this successfully, and it'll be a kickoff under the wings. The whole citadel thing can grow if you'll have access to land and you'll put a herd of cows on it. You can start generating an income, providing for the community, quality meat.
Yeah.
For instance. That's what you meant,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, you see successful initiatives like in Norway. You see Avi the Farmer. You see the beef initiative in the US. So there have been some examples already which are very successful with this Woki in Australia. So there are quite some Bitcoin examples where it really works out, but there is still no start really here in the Netherlands. So how can we initiate this? Is there any way that Bitcoiners can go together and say, okay, we can source this somewhere, or how are we going to approach this?
What comes to mind is the herd shares as Joel Untapped Growth rolled them out. So he's this guy in somewhere in the United States who said, I want to keep my stack, but still start with something like this. And I believe he has
he gets the land he uses because he maintains it with the herds. So he pays a small amount, yeah. And the purchasing and the organization of the herd is done through herd shares. So 100 people put in 1,000 fiat, and then that's enough to purchase the herd, and everyone gets has a share in the herd. So if there's 50 calves next year, then you don't have one cow in your 1% share, but 1.5 cow, and that would be a really simple way to get it started. And then the guy who's organizing it or who's running it, he's just the manager who organizes it. He doesn't have to be the one who supplies the capital. I think that would be an easy way to get started with a thing like this. I can imagine if I look around the room here, there's not many guys who wanna sell 2 Bitcoin out of their personal stack to start something like this.
So you want to start this, or?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would love to. Yeah.
So physically, how do we have to approach this? Because you say, okay, I'm open for this, but you have not found any peers yet that want to join you in this trajectory, or?
That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it'll come to us once it wrinkles into the world, and the time and timing will come, I think, pretty soon. I feel like it'll happen soon. Needs to happen soon, right?
Yeah.
We need to secure these basics.
So yeah, we've seen in open discussions with a lot of Bitcoiners already, a lot of people are searching for a similar thing as you are searching for. And the question is then, where should we position ourselves? Should this be next to Arnhem, where we can actually start sourcing food vertically integrated into shops locally? If you look at Woki Farm, he just has a location where you have the code of the freezers, and you can just grab the stuff there, which they start producing more and more en masse. So internationally this has already worked out, but in the Netherlands we still don't have this initiative of sourcing this properly. And the real question is then, how can we get enough people together to actually make this happen?
Through a discussion like this, and through meetings like this.
Yeah. And then you have listed what needs to be done. So you've built, through the years, you've built quite some things that you think is necessary. Your own focus is mostly on outside of the Netherlands, but are you still open for doing something in the Netherlands? Or
yeah, of course. So we have a small family, so it's a pretty deep dive to relocate to El Salvador or Africa.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course I'm open to it, and in a sense all that's needed is someone who's crazy enough to say I'll do it, and then the everything around it that's needed, the investment, the people who join. I guess it's a group, it's a team effort, right?
Yeah.
You don't, I wouldn't, maybe I wouldn't mind to live by myself between the cows and the trees, but with a family and the missus involved, there needs to be a sort of social cohesion.
Yeah.
Needs to be a group of individuals who'd like to do this. But it's a pretty big step, right? You need to quit your job or liquidate your company and then go into this new business. And so in that sense, it's there's a lot at stake.
Yeah.
And so it'll happen. I truly believe it'll happen in the Netherlands as well. The examples you listed, they're magnificent, and we can do that here as well. near Arnhem and then integrate it into the existing Bitcoin merchants. Sure.
Okay.
And maybe the need needs to be stronger. You know, there needs to be more pain first before we'll act on it.
Yeah, but if you just sense there's a lot of people already in pain because they want to have proper food, so they would like to source their food properly, and the question is where do you get it from then? And I think that's a good moment also to open up this discussion and to get some questions also from the audience.
Or some ideas.
Some ideas of how are we going to start this parallel economy, and what do you think is the most important basis to start this parallel economy on Bitcoin? So the microphone will go around. No hands yet? No questions at all from no one? Yeah, the first one.
There is no question. I don't. Hello.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. I don't want to ask it because we have been in a private discussion before it, but it's good to share it. I think it's a little bit. I'm a little bit skepticism about this word parallel economy, because what we have currently, the main economy is, as we know, governed by government. And it is very important for all governments in the world to keep it, because it is kind of a substitution even for their military capabilities. So we see that, for example, United States is using the power of dollar to basically war against countries like, for example, Russia. So the question is, how would those governments allow this parallel economy to run while they have the power to stop it? And also the question is why, for example, in United States, even as a government is pushing toward Bitcoin, even not stopping it, but even pushing it. So it's a little bit why they allow it, and just can we make it like as we term it, like parallel economy?
They wouldn't allow it. First question you asked. If they can stop it, they would, of course. And in a way, I strongly believe that we need to build what we desire, regardless of what is put up against it. We need to stand up. If we believe in this, we need to fight and take risks, and we need to do it anyway, even though they could stop it, right?
My point is that currently, at least currently, they allow it and they even push it. So if it is something against that main economy, from the beginning they shouldn't promote it, but they are doing it. That's what makes me at least a little bit skepticism about the whole concept of parallel economy.
So we have different jurisdictions, right? So you have, like, if you look at El Salvador, which is like a very Bitcoin friendly government, it's much easier to build something there in that sense. But I think there's a lot of jurisdictions which are much more against Bitcoin in that sense, but it's still being used a lot over there, mostly for still saving, partially for transacting also, because the money is very poor in these locations. So the question is, what would be best for the people in the country themselves to use in the long term? And I think at the moment, if you are here in the Netherlands, the fiat system works relatively okay, but in the future it looks really different. The digital fiat rails, the money rails, is looking to be much more controlled, and also looking to be much more inflationary in the long term than what we were used to, for instance, under the Dutch guilder. So the question is what people are actually going to choose. Is it going to be this parallel system, which is Bitcoin, or is it going to be the system that you're currently in, which will become worse and worse? And this is, I think, the game that's going to play out. But the question here is really, okay, how are we actually going to kick off this basic needs if we are already on Bitcoin? Because it is something that is parallel to it? And are we forever going to be able to exchange Bitcoin into the local currency or not? Is this going to be more difficult? Then we actually are going to need to use this in parallel. So these questions come up when you think about how are we going to build a parallel economy. And for me, I think it's very important that we actually can have a full Bitcoiner life, let's say, on most locations on our planet. Some locations already have this, but we don't really have this in the Netherlands yet. And there are some missing links, like sourcing our food. If that would be possible, then we can actually build forward on that and grow this economy, this Bitcoin economy from there.
Yeah, maybe what also fits is we are a very small niche right now. So maybe we are perceived as not dangerous, while we are to the existing powers. And maybe it's in that sense we need to, or we should, take up that role and just build what we feel is necessary, not for the whole country, but for us. And we're facing some pretty concerning times. Might be some serious societal collapse coming forward, and in that scenario, I want to build and provide for the kids for the future, but in essence, for us, not for the masses. The masses don't really matter. They'll find us eventually, and right now we need to make the start and take care of building a fairer economy, maybe. And it won't build on Bitcoin. It probably isn't stoppable. But it's up to us to try it, to give it a go. We've got very little to lose in our current system, I would say.
You're mentioning societal collapse. So do you see it like, are we going to move towards hyperinflation at some point?
Sure.
Or are we going to move into a war?
Sure. Yeah, maybe.
Are these the things that you are worried about, or?
And I would say also food shortages, those kind of things. I guess there's a lot of scenarios that would be pretty tough on all of us here. Even though we're skeptical about the way things work, we're not really prepared, I guess. Well, I got some rice and some flour at home, some small. I'm a little bit of a prepper. I enjoy it, but I'm not really prepared. If shit hits the fan tomorrow, when my rice is cooked and eaten, I'll be hungry still.
But you're worried about this because if you just look at the Netherlands, we have an oversupply of food. So we produce a lot more food than we actually consume. So are you really worried about this? So where does this worry come from? Because if you look at the current situation, we have a clear oversupply.
The soil is collapsing. The richness of our agricultural land is collapsing. It's being kept like on life support through chemical inputs, fertilizers. If the fertilizer companies don't produce their shit anymore, we won't be able to farm as intensively as we do now, right? So even in an agricultural country like the Netherlands or France or the United States, I feel like there are still big risks on the short term, maybe already.
Okay, so you would also like to see this as a safety hedge, not just for
absolutely.
building something for future,
Both.
but also have a security there.
For myself and my family and my friends and the Bitcoin Eindhoven folks, as a safe haven, sure, and as well as a way to build the new world and the parallel economy.
Yeah, it's actually really funny because last time also a Bitcoiner was here. He's not here today. He did a lot of prepping himself 2 years ago. He bought a shitload of food that he actually built up in his basement. And he said it was the most profitable investment he made. It even outperformed his Bitcoin because. Okay, so I see more hands going up and laughter because a lot of people build up a food stack, which basically more than doubled in value.
It didn't devalue
exactly.
your savings.
Yeah, just in comparison with euros, it was a great investment. So, any other questions?
Hiya.
Hi.
We spoke last time.
Yeah, we did.
I admire your passion about sort of building something up, but it's like parallel. The problem I have with the parallel society idea is that it's quite like polarizing, and I'm getting sort of visions of Mad Max, and I'm wondering if my question is, isn't it better that you put your energy, or we put our energy in convincing more plebs to come along for the party?
Yeah,
What's
sure.
better, be egocentric about it, or spread the love?
Yeah, and I guess primarily it's ego, in the sense you do it for yourself, right? What you do, but it's open to all, I guess. The more people want to join these kind of projects, the merrier. I don't really like the idea of convincing the masses. I don't want to polarize, but I can't help myself. The masses don't matter. Well, they're humans, you know, and I wish them all the best. But if you look outside, like half of the people walking on the street are working for the government or indirectly. There's a lot of people who are the boomers, you know. They're so programmed. You can't talk sense into them. We've seen that with the medical situation last few years. So I've tried. I've on many subjects. I've always tried to convince my friends and family, but I've learned it ain't happening, and I'm a kinder person when I'm not doing that. And if we build something and it works, then the first group of the masses, they'll come to us. They'll get enthusiastic as well, and they'll join. And until eventually everyone, you know, but that's a long way out. And first we need to convince the builders and the visionaries, and you know, we need to start, and then the rest will come. But at all times, I feel like what I will be building will be open to anyone who wants to participate, of course. Yeah.
I think this is also a really important discussion. This is basically what we've seen with Bitkassa in Arnhem. We convince a lot of people to accept Bitcoin, and then nobody's spending their Bitcoin. And then all these locations start to stop accepting Bitcoin at some point because there's basically no one spending their Bitcoin in these places. So the question is really, are you going to convince a lot more people to get a larger group of people to actually save in Bitcoin, not yet spend maybe, but try to let them spend. But if you have a great product, let's say, we talked about beef, for instance. If you have grass-fed, no chemical, unjabbed beef, for instance, and that would be supplied, we know that there are hundreds of Bitcoiners who would love to actually buy this and actually consume this because they can fully trust the sourcing of this food. That's what they would like to see. We've seen that already several times in different locations across the globe where it really works out. So I think it's also the question of building something indeed that has a food supply part in that, where we can fully trust what is in this food, and that can be bought with Bitcoin. And then the masses will join from that part. So the question is really, how are we going to build this? And what is first in this sense?
Yeah, I wouldn't really spend my time and energy, at least not anymore, on trying to convince people in dialogue. I'd rather build something with my peers, my fellow the guys who see things similarly, and then when it gets going, then people can join, and the NPCs can buy our beef as well if they'd like, right? They pay what's it called, a surcharge? They pay in fiat, so they pay more, right?
Okay, other questions?
Thank you for speaking for us plebs.
You're
How
welcome.
many people do you think you have, do you need to start it? I'm looking for some good beef.
Yeah, you and me, and then maybe I would say like 5 families or 10 families. I get where you're going. We've had this discussion many times as well, and there's a big social element around it of exiting the rat race, not being stuck in your office job or in your factory job or whatever, and being outside, being in nature, being with your peers. And in my opinion, I would. My kids aren't going to school, and they never will, if it's up to me. And so there will be, if you'll start living like this in a kind of a community-like setting, there would be, if there would be different families packed together, we could organize schooling for the kids. So if you really wanna be autonomous and sovereign in many aspects, you'll need a small crowd, right? Like 5, 10, 20 families to share in the costs of things, financial and other, right? And we'll need a lot of guys to build the racing track.
Yeah, that's right. You're painting a picture for the far future, but I think you can start easier to collect like 15 people who chip in like 2,000 fiat euros.
Yeah.
Is that enough?
Yeah, I guess in a way we can start today. We can make like a mailing list where plebs mail and say, I want in on this beef thing or whatever you're building. And as soon as 50 or 100 people say, I'll be your customer, I'm in, you can start. You could start building, especially if there's a group of investors involved. Sure.
So we can say the real question is, who is looking for some good beef, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It
So
is.
let's see some hands, so we can do who's looking for great beef in this crowd, which they can pay with Bitcoin.
Doesn't matter, right?
That's half of this group around here. So let's say that's 30 people just from here. And then we have of course whatever comes online. So how can they find you? Because this is going to be the thing, right?
You can. Yeah, I hide pretty well. So right today I have a phone again.
Yeah.
Under pressure by my surroundings, my family and friends. Were tired of me being unavailable. So you can find me on Twitter at Gurtis Pleb. I think the handle is somewhere in the link.
We'll
right?
put it in the notes also.
And in the real life, I'm pretty difficult to find. I hope, and I'd like to remain like that.
Okay, that's very clear. Then any other questions still?
I have one more question.
Yes.
Beside my skepticism about if governments finally allow that parallel economy, that okay, I got an answer, but also in the talk we compared Bitcoin with fiat money, and we called Bitcoin as assets. So yeah, I understand that definitely fiat money is not asset because it is printable by government. But also, I'm a little bit skeptical about calling Bitcoin as an asset because Bitcoin, at least for me, doesn't represent an intrinsic value. Yeah, rice, beef, coffee has some intrinsic value, but it's difficult for me to find intrinsic value in Bitcoin. So how we can call that an asset?
I think this is a beautiful point to stop. And actually you will have to talk with a lot of people around here who will explain you a lot about intrinsic value. One of my favorite passages is in a book. It's called Gradually Then Suddenly, which puts this question and the answer to that very, very clearly there.
By an economist. You were looking
Yes,
for
exactly.
economists.
That's where you were searching for. And then we will stop this discussion from here and then have some drinks with Hans and enjoy. And thank you all for the attention.
Thank you.